Hello and welcome to SMPD, the show where we look back at the shows that shaped our childhood. I am Chris Bolton. With me, as always, my partner in podcasting, Mr. Mark Williams.
Hello.
And this episode, we are looking back at Julia Jekyll and Harriet Hyde. I gotta be honest, I've got no fucking love for this show as a kid at all. So I was kind of dreading this one.
It's a strange one because I remember the name. I obviously knew what it was. I remember the show in as much as I remember there was a girl genius who turned herself into a fucking monster. And I remember the monster looking like a really fucking shit Teletubby version of her. Beyond that, I remembered 4/5 of fuck all about this show.
I always remember the monster, and I was right when I was looking back as well, just looking like Timu, Honey Monster, basically.
Yeah.
That's what he is. He's like, if you
Yeah.
order Honey Monster from Timu, this is what you get.
Yeah.
So, this show hit when I would have been in kind of mid-comprehensive school.
This was 93 to 95, I want to say.
Something like that. I was definitely like in my early teens. So comprehensive school, for our listeners across the pond, high school is what I mean there. Okay, so I was in my early to mid high school years, and I was a big fucking nerd. I was played in a band. I was in the drama club. All of that shit, right? And this was popular amongst my little nerdy circle of friends for some fucking unknown reason to me, because to me, we're all like doing drama and performing arts and shit as well. Like, we should be able to spot something that's shit, and this is shit. I'm not going to bury the lead. I didn't like it as a kid. I still don't like it now. So I didn't have a very good time with this. I'm just going to put it out on Front Street. I don't know about you, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, so I started watching this, would have been Sunday. So I think I watched maybe 2 on Sunday, having had a bitch of a migraine all weekend, but knowing I needed to watch some of it. Picked up a couple more on Monday, and then completely fucked up. I thought we were recording last night instead of tonight, because that's when we usually record, and I forgot you needed to move it. So I ended up sticking another 2 or 3 on last night, just to try and see if I got into it a bit. And I remember there were loads of these fucking very short form kids sitcoms in the early to mid 90s on ITV and BBC. It was a thing, especially ones where they did some sort of body swap or some fucking mutation or something. Thinking of things like Woof on CITV, which was quite popular, and I just remember this being another one of those. And so I came into this. I remember 4/5 of fuck all, apart from the ginger kid, who went on to be quite hot, incidentally.
I haven't looked. Now I feel like I need to look.
So, did you watch Sugar Rush on Channel 4 in the early 10s?
I remember Sugar Rush. Yeah,
she was the lead in that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so she went on to be quite hot.
Went on to develop quite well. But yeah, I remembered very little about this show. And so when I put it on, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's what the monster looked like. I remember that. And that's about the best thing I could say about it, was that I went, oh, it's this.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe we've literally just boiled this show. Like, look, we're 2 straight white middle-aged males, so how the hell did we just live up to that stereotype and literally boil this show down to, yeah, the lead went on to grow up and be quite hot. Like, how the hell? We're not even 5 minutes in. I'm embarrassed for us. Jesus Christ.
It's not the worst thing we've ever said.
Oh, hell no, it's far from the worst thing we've ever said. I'm just surprised we were straight in there with that. You're absolutely right, Mark. But
there's fuck all redeeming about this show. That's the problem. It's not charming. It's not quirky. It tries to be. It tries to spin that lens of it's okay to be clever. You don't have to be the pretty one, the popular one, all the rest of it. You can still be good at shit. And you can still overcome adversity and all the rest of it. And I'm sure if somebody wanted to read into it, there's some allegory about puberty and transformation, all this. I'm sure if you wanted to apply that reading to it, it's there somewhere. But for me, it was just, each episode was 12, 13 minutes of fucking around, exploiting the lead because she was good at everything and her parents were fucking useless.
We'll get into that.
I mean, and some really fucking unfortunate stereotypes. I mean, there was an episode very early on. I watched the first 7 episodes, by the way. So I've watched.
Oh, you've watched more than me. I couldn't stomach that many.
Yeah, there were 53 in total. So there were only like 10 I think they're 12, 13 minute-ish.
Yeah, they're very short. They are
Um,
mercifully short.
I think they were kind of that sort of 4:30 to 4:45 slot before the good thing came on, before news round.
It was 20 past 4, and I know it was 20 past 4 because the version I was watching still had the continuity announcers at the start and end. And on one of the episodes, they announced that Julia, Jekyll, and Harriet Hyde will be on again next week, same time, 20 past 4. So it was exactly that slot mark. It was 50 minutes. That would have taken you up to like 25 to 5. So then you would have dropped into news round, and then you would have got your Blue Peter or whatever, and then it's Dennis Neighbours, basically.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, so it was that slot. And incidentally, I quite like, because you got some of the CBBC stuff. You had like Chris Jarvis and Mr. Barker and sort of various characters and shit. And you're watching that. Some of those were more interested in the fucking show.
yeah, I can imagine they are.
And I mean, we talked about this. I can't remember what we watched fairly recently, but whoever put it all together on YouTube had kept all the continuity announcements on it.
Yes,
and like, they kept the adverts and shit on it, and it was like that. It was like watching. Oh, I remember that character. I remember that presenter. I remember that shtick they used to do about X, Y, and Z.
It was Maid Marian, which we did almost 18 months ago now. So
no, can't have been that long ago.
It was Christmas time. It was definitely a Christmas time. I'm convinced of it. I think it was. In fact, I think it was just before Christmas, because didn't we do Maid Marian and then go on to do Narnia? I think.
No, we did Narnia when it was in your house. We did Maid Marian while I was here.
Okay, well, maybe I'm wrong then. I'm pretty sure
Possibly.
it was. Anyway, it was Maid Marian, and same. Yeah, it's the same deal in that, like, this isn't available anywhere. Like, we like to pay for content, listeners, but this is not available anywhere because it's shit, and I don't think anybody wants it. Well, having said that, it's got like, a 7 point something score on IMDb from one review, mind you, one review. So. Nobody's counteracted that. But like I said, I remember it being popular amongst my little crowd as well. So some people definitely liked it. But yeah, those continuity bits were they were worth watching it for. But yeah, you get those on YouTube because we watched the stream illegally on YouTube.
Because we had it was ITV because we had adverts.
Spats had the adverts. Maid Marian, though, we had the continuity announcers on as well. Because I remember talking about but Spats still left all the adverts in. And it's interesting, actually, that we've gone straight to bringing those two shows up, right? Because those again are kind of children's sitcoms, slightly longer form than this.
Yes.
But the difference in quality between Maid Marian and Spats and this fucking thing. Now, look, there's a lot of reasons that I didn't like it. Okay. First and foremost, what it does that those other two shows don't do, and we credit them for all the time, what this does is really, really talk down to children. Like, Absolutely. This treats children like fucking idiots. Yes. Like, the level of writing here and the gags are absolutely atrocious. They're aimed at fucking 5-year-olds. It's terrible. Right? Those other two shows don't do that. They don't condescend to children. They treat them like adults. And more than that, they also put some sophisticated gags in there for the adults that are also watching. There's no reason this couldn't have done that, but it doesn't. It shares some creative DNA with Rent-A-Ghost, believe it or not.
Yes. Not a huge amount.
Not a huge amount, but some. And again, the difference between those two shows is night and day. Now, that was also a very, very silly show. But that committed 100% to its tone and to being silly. And it took what it was doing seriously. Even though it was a very silly show, it took what it was doing seriously. And I dearly love that show. That is still, to this day, if you ask me to list like the top 10 shows we've watched on this podcast, that would be in there. That holds up very, very well. It's excellent. Again, it doesn't pander to children. It's silly, but it doesn't pander to children. Not even Chucklevision pandered to children when we looked back at that. Not in the way that this does, No. The writing is very simplistic. The gags are stupid. Everyone is silly. It's full of dad jokes. It's just unfucking bearable. And one of the biggest problems it has, when I say about Rent-A-Ghost, like committing to being silly and committing to the bit, and I don't really think this is it is a fault with the show, but I think it's a product of its time in as much as this falls in this little weird time slip between what was essentially like your 2-camera studio sitcom, which was very, very popular with a live studio audience and recorded laughter. And what would come later, which would be more akin to your Maid Marians for children, but would go on within like traditional adult situational comedy world to become the more polished, more produced comedy drama that became popular, that essentially Ricky Gervais popularized with The Office, right? Where we went into this thing of like, right, well, we're moving out of the studio, we're dropping the canned laughter, we're going to get it. Right, and that popularized itself just a few short years after this. So this is kind of locked in the middle, right? And it feels like it's very much aware creatively of that change happening. It feels like it doesn't want canned laughter. But it also feels like the jokes are so dull that it needs them. So what it decides to do is kind of try and put a foot in either camp and not have canned laughter, but instead treat all of the extras as some weird fucking chorus line that will cackle and laugh at the stupid jokes in the show, which breaks the fourth wall completely. And when you combine that with the just absolutely god-awful performances from everyone, like no one is spared you, and there are some very talented people in this cast, right? But everyone is terrible in this. When you couple all of that together, when you have the poor writing, the bad jokes, the bad performances, it almost feels like all these extras are laughing at the show. That's the problem. It's so fucking bad. It just feels unprofessional. It feels like panto at times.
Yes, that was very much had that feel, especially with the parents and so the jokes you got out of those. So I can say that again. But
yeah.
I wanted to reach into the screen and punch them at one point.
The parents are appalling. Again, like, performance-wise, they're actually some of the better performers in the whole piece, but the material they've got to work with. You know, like, you can say that again, dear, and so she says it again. Or, like, the dad will say, oh, she does whatever, doesn't she, dear? What did she do? And then she says, and look, this isn't funny. You're just trying to give these people character because they have none.
Yeah, it's that very schlocky sort of panto vaudeville type. You know, let's just talk about it and it'll be funny because we're talking. We'll talk really fast, and it doesn't actually give it any substance.
Yeah.
There was a point, I think it's 2 or 3 episodes, I actually wanted to reach in and punch the mother in the face.
Yeah,
because she was just so fucking annoying. And I think she was more annoying than the dad.
Definitely. And it's because they give her that thing of repeating herself over and over.
Yeah.
Then, of course, you've got the fucking head teacher, Mr. Rocket, or whatever his name is.
Yes.
Who can't even decide what his own character is, because for the first few episodes he presents as a hippie, and then he becomes some sort of greaser for a little bit, because like he still dresses like a hippie and is all like, oh, far out, man. But then he's revealed to be like a massive Elvis fan and stuff, and it's like, hang on, none of this gels. This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And then like the Blister sisters and their horrendous fucking wigs.
Yes. I don't. Aside from the fact it makes them look stupid and it makes them stand out as being more stupid than the rest of the cast, I don't see the need for that choice.
Nor do I. Like, look, if you want to give them like that kind of bird's nest hairstyle, so that they look like they're the kind of the rough kids who've been dragged through the hedge backwards, and everything that comes with the connotations of that, you know, they look like they've wandered straight out of the twits, for fuck's sake. At least spend some money on the wigs. Don't go down completely to fucking Smithy's and buy a 99p party wig and stick it on their head. Like, and that's the problem here, is everything just feels, it almost feels purposely stupid.
Yes.
And I think if you're going to do that, you have to commit to it in the way that Rent-A-Ghost does. Or even Maid Marian, that is purposely stupid at times. But this is going to sound like such a dull thing to say. It's smarter about being stupid.
Yes.
Yeah, it's always got its tongue in its cheek.
It presents as stupid because it knows exactly what it is and what it's trying to do.
Yes. Whereas this is...
This appears to be a straight version, if you like. It's not, though. There doesn't appear to be any sort of satire or any irony in this. It's literally just, this is a funny show we made.
Yes.
But it's not funny.
Yeah, it's a funny show for children, is what they think. And so... it falls into that trap of thinking that children can't understand sophisticated humour and they just want puns and visual comedy. And then it's made even worse by the fact that, look, I know there's a lot of children in the cast, right? But some of these other shows we've watched, the cast are also children, but they're more than capable of holding their own. Like Grange Hill, Spats, all of these other shows, like the cast are all fine. Whereas every kid in this sounds like they've literally just plucked them from the street and given them a fucking script to read and gone, read that, don't look at the camera. Like they're so stunted in their delivery, and they're always pitching for the stalls as well. They're practically shouting their fucking lines out. And like you say, Mark, it comes across as very vaudeville. It is that, like, I've got to pitch to the cheap seats. Like, everybody's got to hear me.
Yeah. I think there were only two kids who were who didn't annoy me. Also, they were relatively okay. So you had Olivia Hallinan, who was Julia Jekyll. In short periods, I thought some of her delivery wasn't great. And I think that when they had her saying some of the bigger words and some of the longer sentences, I think she struggled. I think she tripped over them, and nobody went back to look. This is what this needs to sound like. You need to sound like you're smart. You don't need to sound like you're reading off a fucking autocue.
Yeah.
Nobody did that with her, but I think Olivia Hallinan did very well. And I can't remember the actor's name, but the girl who plays Sarah Slocum, she's the only one who had any discernible character about her. Apart from that, she's the dark-haired one. She's the first one to stand up to the Blister Sisters when they're demanding money. In every episode. And I think she did okay. Beyond that, I think everybody pretty much was playing a 10-year-old kid with no idea of what the fuck was going on.
Yeah, it's terrible. Like it reminds me, and this is just always my go-to for bad child actors. So this probably doesn't mean a lot to. Well, actually, I don't know. It's quite a popular film, so I guess a lot of people do know it. But it reminds me of the middle section of Act 2 of Muppets Christmas Carol, where Scrooge goes back to his old schoolroom, and they've got that plummy little kid in the schoolroom with Sam Eagle. And it's just one of the worst performances you've ever heard in your life. Yes, master. No, master. I don't know, master. It's that. It's just literally like, speak properly, speak in RP so everybody can understand you. Don't use accents, and just pitch to the stalls. It really doesn't help itself. I think, there's a way to do this show and to be this silly and to get away with it, like I say, Rent-A-Ghost does it, Maid Marian does it on occasion. Like, if you want to go for this vaudeville style, the way to do this is to just make it clear that it's happening live. Just shoot it live, which it's not, right? It's recorded. But do this live. Do it like a fucking panto and film it. That's fine. And just roll with the anarchy of it, But they can't do that because they need the outfit for Harriet Hyde or whatever. But that in. She just ducks behind a desk.
I was going to say, the number of times she ducks behind a desk and then comes up as Harriet Hyde, it doesn't make a fucking difference anyway. Or she goes through a door and then somebody opens the door behind her and all of a sudden it's Harriet. They can do that in a million different fucking ways. They don't need the really crappy yellow effect.
No.
And actually, that probably would have made it a bit more palatable, because it would have seen, it's adding to that absurdity of it. And this is an absurd show. It's got to be an absurd show.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have that, when you try and explain away the fact, oh yes, okay, she's trying to make this potion, so she's got this kitchen set up, and it's all flashes and bangs, and the door blows off. But then Harriet Hyde appears. You can do all of that in exactly the same way you have the flash of the thing going pop, and when the smoke dries clears, they've changed the actor.
Yeah,
it's easy enough to do. That's. People have been doing that for fucking generations.
It's basic stagecraft. Yeah, you can definitely do it. And I think that
would probably made it better.
Definitely, right? Because that signifies what you're watching. It hasn't got the foot in both camps.
Yeah.
And that's my issue with this, I think. I know that sounds daft, but to me, like, if I'm expecting one thing and you're giving me something else, I'm not up for that. If you'd have given me another Rent-A-Ghost, like, the fact that I hated it as a kid, I would have put that to one side. If it was as stupid and as anarchic and daft as Rent-A-Ghost, I'd have just gone, yeah, okay, fine. But I feel like it just wants to be, and it doesn't know how. And I think that is the way you do it, Mark. You do it live, and you just roll with the punches. And not that was the case with Rent-A-Ghost, but like I say, that handled itself better, whereas this doesn't. There's also, and you've already touched on it, there is so much you can do with this concept that
The
they
concept is
decide
fine.
not to go with. I mean, look, the concept is tried and tested, right? And that's part of the problem, is that every other teen show, particularly fantasy teen shows, have touched on this in some way, shape, or form. I mean, fuck me, this was 93, 94, so you give this another 4 years, and Buffy is doing this weekly in some way, shape, or form. Buffy literally does this several times in season 3, this storyline, you know?
Yeah.
And
even if you look at this at the exact same time, I know the budget would have been a lot different, but at the same time this was airing, Nickelodeon was showing Secret World of Alex Mack.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which again, very similar. If you break them down, it's very similar. Now, child genius exposed to mystery chemical, develops powers, has to hide her life while she tries to get back to normal. One does it a hell of a lot better than the other.
Yeah, and you know, this story is so tried and tested, you know, that it is done over and over and over again, and it's just this adds nothing to it. It's not even that it doesn't add nothing, it's that it doesn't attempt to. It just goes for silly gags. And it's like, it's got the nerve, even when you like read anything about it as well, it's got the nerve to constantly say that it's based on Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It's like, well, no, it's not really, is it? Because you don't even touch on the core concept of that book.
Not at all.
You don't go anywhere near it.
Other than the fact there's some scientific experiment has gone wrong, and now you have somebody with a split personality.
Yeah. Well, it's not
but you
even.
Don't lean into that at all.
She hasn't even got a split personality. That's the thing that annoys me the most about it. It's just her in a monstrous body, and everybody is afraid of her, but she's no different. The only thing she does different is she picks up the Blister Sisters every week and throws them around because she can.
If she were bigger in her human form,
if she
would
could,
anyway.
Exactly. She still talks like Harriet, like Julia Jekyll. She still sounds like Julia Jekyll. Yeah. She still has Julia Jekyll's brain. She's just in a big furry.
Like she's bigger and able to do stuff.
She's in a big furry honey monster body. That's the only difference.
Yeah. Now the other thing that really fucked me off, and you know I like a logic app and you like a continuity error. So in the first episode, she drinks the elixir in front of the class and changes into Harriet Hyde.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody sees her change into Harriet Hyde.
Yep.
Except after that, nobody realizes, including the people who were in the fucking room at the time, that it's the same person.
Well, she does duck behind the desk in that episode, but you're right. It doesn't take a massive leap of logic to work out it's the same person. But then every fucking week, she goes in one door and Harriet Hyde comes out, or somebody goes screaming after her. And then in the fucking school panto episode or whatever it is, she literally transforms on stage in front of the entire school and all the parents and teachers.
Yep.
And they still don't put two and two together.
Yeah.
Like, again, yeah, you're right. The logic doesn't work. The logic of the potion itself doesn't work either. It's never explained why. You know, she's not the only one that drinks this potion either, right? But it's never explained why.
No, but the blister system modifies, so she gives it to her parents.
Yeah.
And they like it, and the father wants to sell it to a random Chinaman from Scotland, which we'll come on to shortly as well, because that was a really fucking offensive episode. And when she leaves her ingredients in the fridge at school to then do the experiment
and
in
the
school,
blister sisters modify it.
And the blister sisters modify it. So that's what the difference is, that she's the only one who drinks this version of it.
Except she drinks this version of it and transforms, but then she drinks several other versions of it because she tries to correct it and still just randomly transforms. So again, if the hair restoration formula stuff is what triggered the transformation in the first place, then surely the hair restoration formula should be used to trigger, like Popeye and spinach.
She doesn't.
No, I know she doesn't. But what I'm saying is, whether she knows that or not, it just happens at random. It's not triggered by anything.
No.
So there's absolutely no sense in this at all. Do you know what I mean? It's not like it's Popeye and spinach, where it's not like it's kickstarting some sort of molecular transformation. She just happens to have drunk this hair restoration cream. So in theory, if you drink it once and it makes you grow the hair, you shouldn't change back, right? If it's the act of drinking it that does it, you shouldn't change back.
Yeah.
But she does. She just keeps changing at random. I just couldn't wrap my head around that. I'm like, what triggers this transformation? Again, if it was a case of the formula alters her DNA somehow, and then it's like a Hulk thing, like all of a sudden if she gets angry or if she gets stressed or whatever. But that is just, I mean, look, maybe it's explained later in the run. I don't know. I couldn't stomach enough to get even through the first season.
Get far enough in to see if that is the case.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe this is explained because I think this ran for about three or four seasons. I think
it's 3 seasons, 53 episodes.
Yeah, I mean, I made it through like 5, and that was enough. I couldn't go any further.
I watched 6, and then Tori asked what it was, and I told her, oh, that rings a bell. I'm not sure. So we put the next one on, and then they're like 12 minutes or something. She didn't even get through that. She's like, fuck this.
Yeah, it's fucking bad. I don't blame her. It's fucking diabolical. This is one of, like, sometimes you watch shows and I get really fucking angry with them, right? And I get angry because they're so bad, and especially if I remember them as being good, like they really wind me up. But this wound me up in a whole different way. It wasn't angry like, oh, fuck you for making me watch this or anything like that. This was like you said, Mark, this was like, I want to reach through the phone and just throttle every single one of you because you're so fucking annoying. Like, this show is just annoying me. It's almost offensive. It's that bad. That's how bad this show is. It's awful. And as you say, Mark, it is actually also in several places quite offensive. But you got to give it credit for the time it was made in as well. So
yeah, that's it. And I think the one episode that I was looking at thinking, oh fucking hell. So I think it's in the first episode, it might be the second episode, the father says he wants to sell the drink to Tim Tung Tuk or whatever whatever they wanted to call him, which again it was just let's find some random syllables because that sounds Chinese, right? And then so they bring this back a couple of times, and then there's an episode where he decides, oh bugger it, we'll just we'll just write to him and invite him around because we've got something special for it to show him. Again, because obviously top business executives do that all the time. They call around to random houses because somebody's got an idea.
Yes, they do.
But so this Chinese guy in a suit turns up, and he's got the broadest fucking Motherwell accent I've ever heard. He might as well be saying "See you, fucking Jimmy." And then they proceed to have a Chinese dragon, which Julia has made in art class that day because she knew he was coming. But all this, Mr. Rocket has decided on that day that he's into fucking Chinese Chinese heritage because yesterday it was igloos and the week before it was African savannah. So it just happens to coincide with his China fetish. So he decides all the class are going to come along because they need them all in the same place to do something. I don't know.
Because they need somebody to laugh at the shit jokes, Mark. That's why.
Yeah, pretty much. So they're all there for this Chinese dragon show in the living room because obviously Chinese paper dragons in carnivals and shit. They all fit in your living room.
Yeah, totally. It's not like 30 people stood in a fucking conga line or anything. No.
Yeah, so they go and do this, and then it all kind of goes wrong because these things always go wrong because the blisters get involved, and then for some reason the not Chinese guy thinks it's fucking hilarious. And it's the best Chinese dragon he's ever seen. I said, hang on, what?
Yeah, I mean, aside from it being a horrendous fucking fire hazard as well to have a giant paper dragon in your living room.
Especially when your fucking kitchen explodes every 2 minutes.
Yeah, and all those people in there as well. Like, that's a fucking nightmare. It's a day job coming out, sorry. But it's the first thing I'm thinking of there is, like, this is a fucking death trap. But, yeah, the problem is, like, you hit on another one of my major issues with it there, where they're like, oh, they'll just decide to put all the kids in the fucking Jekyll's living room because they need them there. That is the level of just narrative. I'm struggling to use the word quality. It's just that's what the narrative is like here. It's 15 minutes of absolute nonsense, culminating in the same gag of somebody seeing Harriet Hyde and running away, and then it just stopping because they don't know how to end the episodes, because all they do is move random groups of characters from one setup to the next with very little narrative through line, hardly any connective tissue. It's just a way to get to the next fucking god-awful dad joke and to make you swallow it. I did not so much as smirk at this show even once. Like, it didn't even raise a titter. It didn't get anywhere near it. And, we've watched its peers, most of his peers that we've watched, I've said, again, we keep saying them, but Spats, Maid Marian, all of those shows had me fucking rocking at times.
Yeah.
There's genuinely funny stuff in them.
Yeah.
They just doesn't get anywhere fucking near that.
No, I mean we've talked loads of times about the fact that not all all humor is subjective, but especially when you bring time into it and things like that, it's not all going to land. Not everything's going to hit.
No.
But for nothing to hit,
yeah,
that's really worrying.
And for nothing to hit so consistently, it's not just like there's a dud episode. Every episode's a dud episode.
Episodes. Well, there's certainly a dud 7. I can't comment for the others because I haven't seen them, but statistically, it's unlikely that I picked the only 7 shit ones, and the other 46 are fucking amazing.
The trouble is as well, there's no counterbalance to it. Like the gags are not funny, but I feel like you could cut it a pass for that if at least the drama was weighty. At least if there was a decent narrative here and there was character growth and we had a story arc and all of that.
Yeah.
Then the fact that the gags are not funny, at least there's something to carry you through. Or if you don't have that, then if the gags are funny, there's something to carry you through. But there's fucking nothing. Like I said, there's not even any. No, that's unfair. I was going to say there's not even any talented performers in it to help sell it. That's unfair because I do believe there are talented performances. This. It's just that you can only work with the shit that you've got, and this is shit. It's the shittest shit that ever shitted. It's fucking horrible, absolutely horrible. I cannot believe anyone got paid to write this shit on a page, particularly in the early 90s. When it probably would have been quite laborious to do so. Like, you would have still been using, like, the really old fucking shitty word processing software and stuff then, and it would have taken ages. Like, it's not like you're just brain farting something. Ugh, it's just bad. Bad. Going into this, I kind of wanted it to be good. This is another show, like we were talking about. What were we talking about recently that I hated? Not Jimbo, because Jimbo was good. What did we do before Jimbo that I didn't like? Farthingwood.
Yeah.
Same thing as that, right? I wanted to go back and watch it and go, oh yeah, it was me. I was a fucking idiot. I really did, because I know people really enjoyed this, and I feel like I should. I should like this. I really should.
This was what I grew up on. Was this type of show. It was this knockaround sort of kids version of a sitcom, and I fucking loved all these.
Yeah, me
you
too.
Had Woof and Michelangelo, all this sort of stuff. These were always fucking on in our house, and there's no reason why this one couldn't have hit as well. The effort just doesn't seem to be there. It doesn't seem to know what it is and how it wants to play it, and because of that, it's just really fucking bland.
And like I said, I think part of that can be accredited to the time it was made. I think it does fall in a period where there was a very definite transitional shift, and that tied through into children's comedies and stuff as well. There was a definite transitional shift. And I also think, humour-wise even, this is coming in the early 90s, so we're just coming out of the 80s, where, you would have had a lot more politically tinged humour and stuff like that, even in kids' TV. And we're just about to move into what was absolute fucking anarchy again in the fucking mid-90s with Nickelodeon, and you just had absolute anarchy for humour in kids' TV, and you'd get things like Ren and Stimpy pushing the boundaries at about this time as well. So then to have something so twee and stupid and silly and childish, it hasn't got a place in the world. If this was made in the 70s, maybe. But it wasn't. It was made in the early to mid-90s when everything was extreme. How the fuck do you stand this up next to... Well, I mean, what like Maid Marian for one, but I don't want to keep coming back to it, right? But you've mentioned some others, Michelangelo, Woof. If you look at the animated sitcoms that were going around at this time now, how do you stand this up next to a Real Monsters or a Rocko's or a Rugrats even? How do you stand this up to any of those shows and go, yeah, that's what kids' humour looks like?
Yeah.
Because it fucking doesn't, does it? How do you stand it next to Round the Bend? There's another show we've looked at, for instance. How would you...
Yeah.
Which, again, is very stupid, puerile, childish humor, right?
Yeah.
But it knows what it is. And yes, it's quite crude, but it knows exactly what it is, and it pitches to kids, but it does so well, and it understands what it is. Zap, another one that we've talked several times about and have never gone back and watched, but should.
Yes.
Put it next to that, I'd wait. I mean, we don't know. We haven't watched it. Maybe it's awful, but that's better than it. Chucklevision, the fucking Sooty Show. Put it next to any of these, right?
Yeah.
And they're all, I guarantee you, even the ones we haven't watched, more fucking sophisticated than this, just by virtue of even the stupid childish ones like Chucklevision know exactly what they fucking are, and they commit to the bit. And that's the thing. This doesn't ever.
Yeah, and Chucklevision, actually, I think it's a good comparison, because I know it had a different format. You know, it wasn't the same every week. You know, but you had, again, it was, when we talked about Chucklevision, there was that very sort of vaudevillian, old-timey comedy style to it, and it fits that because, again, that it's almost as if, and this is going to sound really unkind, and I don't mean it to, but it's almost as if the writers of Julia Jekyll have seen lots of stuff like that and gone, right, that's where we want to pitch it, that's how we want to put it on, but not realize that the art of something like Chucklevision is knowing that it looks like a lot more than it is because they know what they're doing.
Yes.
And it's almost like they've gone, oh well, that's how you do it. I've got After Effects, so I can do all of this.
Yeah.
And actually, all I need to do is make that green.
Yeah, and the difference there, you're right. You're absolutely right in what you've said there. Chucklevision is good because of the chuckles. That's why Chucklevision is good. It doesn't need furry costumes and special effects. It doesn't need a complicated storyline, because what it's got is two very, very funny, very talented and very creative performers.
Yeah, and actually, if you gave them the same gags that you gave Mum and Dad, or you can say that again,
they'd nail it every time.
Yeah, same joke, word for word, setup for setup, would be absolutely identical. Difference being, they'd knock 100 out of the park, whereas this side, I don't know if they hit 3.
It's the delivery is the thing. It's the delivery. The fact that the mum knows it's a gag, right, and is pitching it to the stalls. Whereas with Chuckles, it would be played off in a classic straight man and foil sense, right? And it would be played straight. And that's the key to them. Again, they know what they are. Yes, the humour is stupid. Yes, it's silly. But it's played 100% straight every time. And again, you look at the style of Chucklevision and you don't have the canned laughter. It's not a 2-camera studio sitcom, right? It's an on-location sitcom. And that's the type of thing that this is struggling to be, because it can't be Chucklevision, and it also can't be Bodger and Badger, and it doesn't know where it lives.
Yeah.
It doesn't know, and it's nowhere near as good as either of those shows. There's another good comparison for it, I think, probably Bodger and Badger, another very childish show. Another one I don't think we enjoyed as much as Chucklevision, but we certainly enjoyed when we watched it back, and I remember enjoying it as a kid. Again, very stupid, very childish humour, but done with a very, very talented cast. I mean, look, how funny can throwing mashed potato around really be? But somehow they make it work, right? Because they commit to the bit.
Yeah.
This is just across the board, and like I say, it's unfortunate because it does share some creative DNA with Rent-A-Goes, which I dearly love, but nobody is having a good day at work on this show. That's the problem. And it kind of feels like, and this is a thing, like, you were an ITV kid, I know. I used to watch a lot of CBBC. Well, I kind of flicked back and forth, but we've had this discussion on the show before. Like, I started watching loads of ITV, then when I got older, I kind of flipped over more to CBBC. But I do remember this point in the mid-90s where it just kind of felt like, as a network and as an identity and the content they were putting out, like, CBBC was just floundering, and it didn't know what and this is really just the best example of that. It's a prime example of it, because again, at this point now, Sky TV has taken off, like, it's in everybody's house, and like, why am I going to watch Julia Jekyll and Harriet Hyde when I can flip over and watch Turtles, Rugrats, Real Monsters, Rocko's Modern Life? What the fuck am I going to be doing watching this? Like, why would I? I'm going to have Nickelodeon on, or I'm going to have DJ Cat on, or I'm going to have, like, because there is much much better quality entertainment. And like you said, flip the same times this is on, you flick over to Nickelodeon, and that is what you've got, right? In this slot, like the 4:20ish slot, depending on the day of the week, you would have a Rugrats or a Rocco or a Real Monsters. It would be one of those animated sitcoms. And then from 5 o'clock and the 6 o'clock slot, you'd be having your Alex Max, your Sister Sisters, your Are You Afraid of the Dark? You'd have all the live action stuff. And this just, it can't go anywhere near that level of quality.
No.
Oh, it's bad. This is really bad. I think I hate this more than Farthing Wood. Like, Farthing Wood was just boring, right? That's the thing. Farthing Wood was just boring.
I think the saving grace with this, when compared, and this is not how the show works, but if you comparing one to the other, I think at least the episodes were shorter and they felt shorter.
They are short. However, I think, like, I had to gear myself up to watch Farthing Wood, right? Like, after the first one, and I knew how boring it was going to be. It was a real slog. It was like, oh, fucking hell, here we go again. But at least by the time I'd geared myself up to watch it, I could sit down and I could power through it. With this, not only did I have to psych myself up to watch it, because after the first one, I just really didn't fucking want to watch anymore. But when I did sit down and watch them, the whole time, it just felt like pulling fucking teeth. It's like nails on a blackboard to me, this show. It's awful. I cannot state strongly enough how much I hated the experience of rewatching this show. It's dreadful, dreadful, dreadful. The one good thing I will say about it, we've knocked it a little bit. I've said it looks like Temu Honey Monster, but actually that costume is pretty good, all things considered. Like, that's probably why the wigs are so bad.
He earned his fucking money, because that must have been boiling.
Yeah, and actually, I'd go as far as to say that's the best performance in the entire show as well. The performance from within that costume is good. They understand that the mouth isn't going to move, so they know how to emote properly with their hands and stuff like that. And again, that kind of works with the vaudeville style they're going for, so that's fine.
Yeah.
The way they swing the rag dolls around whenever they're swinging the Blister Sisters, that looks great. That all looks really fucking good.
Yeah.
But that is the one positive thing I think I'm going to say about it. Everything else, it can just get in the fucking bin, and I hope I never, ever have to go anywhere near this fucking show ever again. I hope I never hear anyone talk about it ever again.
I mean, it's unfortunate. I mean, I agree with you. I think I wanted to enjoy this. I thought that there was potential, especially, and we've looked at shows before where they have taken a sort of classic literature sort of concept and tried to modernize it. And I thought there's scope for this here. I didn't think it was going to be amazing. I thought, okay, I may have misremembered. I may have actually not given it much credit first time around. I don't know. But again, having seen some of the cast that have come out of it, I thought, yeah, okay, maybe I've been unfair and I've been unduly harsh. But actually, with the exception of seeing Olivia Hallen doing things since then, I can't place anybody. The guy who played Mr. Blister in the first season, they changed him after the first season. I recognise him from some fucking where. Cannot think where. I've gone through his IMDb. I cannot find him in anything I would have recognised him from. He's had like a bit part, like a cameo on one episode in this and one episode in that. So there's nothing consistent I'd seen him in. But beyond that, was probably the biggest thing that bugged me. Actually, was trying to work out where the fuck I knew him from. But with the exception of I say Julia Jekyll, nobody's gone on to do much of note that I've gone, oh yeah, they've done something passable. Actually, there's something I quite like. And yeah, it was just another one. I'm thinking, fuck, I've wasted like an hour and a half on this show, and that's more than enough.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring that up as well, because actually, kids TV around this time, and when I say around this time, I'm saying about 2 decades worth here, but from like the 80s and the 90s, like the live action kids TV that we were kicking out in this country, so many of the people that starred in those shows went on to become fucking huge.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, like, British TV royalty, some of them went on to have very successful movie careers as well. So it's quite rare to have a show like this and have nobody really break out of it. And I'm talking the kids now, but it's quite rare to have nobody really, really break out. So that in itself is probably indicative of of the state of this fucking show. It's
Yeah, it's bizarre. I'm just flicking through the IMDb now that the of all the casts, the only ones who've sort of gone on to do anything and have sort of IMDb pages with anything on them other than this, there's like a handful of them, and it's like third copper on the left in an episode of Prime Suspect,
great.
and it's no,
Hey,
it's
look,
like
I'm
no,
not knocking it. That's a career.
no,
Right.
work is work. I'm all for I'm all for
Yeah.
the work is work. But I say we look at some of the other things. We looked at Spats and the cast of that. You know, fucking Samantha Janice went on to be to do all that she did. There were people in there you recognise. You look at Press Gang where you had Dexter Fletcher, and Judy Sawalha, and all those people that went off that spun off out of the shows like that. And you think, well, it's a real shame that there's not been that much success out of this. But then you look at this and go, you actually kind of understand why.
Yeah, but like, to everybody involved, they were getting paid, right? And the sad thing is that lots of these kids at the time probably thought this was it. They're breaking through now. They're going to be in it, but then they never went anywhere because they were in this fucking thing. And yeah, this has got to be. I think I can say this confidently, unless there's something I've completely forgotten about. This has got to be the worst live action show that we've had to watch. It's possibly the worst show, but it's definitely the worst live action show.
I won't say definitely because then I'd have to go back and through what we've done because I know there's been some absolute fucking dog shite.
I don't think we've watched that much bad live action shit though.
I don't know. I can't remember
because we haven't done that much live. We've done some, but we haven't done that much. But
I think VR Troopers was pretty fucking bad.
I had completely forgotten about VR Troopers.
I don't think it's this bad, but it's pretty fucking
It's
bad.
way better than this. Way better than this. At least it had like fights and shit. Like, it's all right. Yeah, it's like bad Power Rangers, but at least it had like robot-y type people kicking people in the face. Like that's what's better than this, right?
Yeah. This had Mr. Blobby's cousin.
It is very Mr. Blobby, isn't it? I thought that
especially
a
with
lot.
the performance as well.
Yeah, and the swinging, like I was
Asperger's
saying, the swinging and stuff. It's
yeah, and
very
Mr.
Blobby.
You get it a lot as well where they do it now. What's that stupid fucking thing they do on ITV? Is it Masked Singer?
Oh
yeah. And then when they're all there, obviously none of them can talk because they don't want to give away who they are. But they're all fucking mugging for the camera, and it's the stupid hands in front of the face and pretending to be shy and giggling and stuff like that. It feels a lot like that, and that's what you got from this actor as well in doing the Harriet Hyde thing. And yeah, it's just fucking annoying.
Yeah,
it's really disappointing.
Like I said, I think that's quite a good performance. But yeah, I see where you're coming from. But there's just something about the whole thing that felt blobby to me. I think it's just because people kept running away and screaming, and like then the monster would kind of chase, but there would be no movement from the like they were locked at the shoulder for some reason. It must have been like I assume there's height built into that costume, but it's kind of
because it was a grown-ass man doing that. So.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing when you see like Blobby running and there's clearly no movement in the top half of the body there because he's like a bowling pin. And so you got his little legs going and the rest of the costume, and he's got like T-Rex arms, and then the rest of the costume is completely static. And this kind of felt the same way. So I think that's
like it only kind
was.
of moves from side to side because when it's moving, it's obviously the shoulders are coming up and things like that. But because it's so boxy, it just feels a bit like that. And so it's really, I was. It's bad. I think we've established that. I don't think either of us enjoyed the sort of time we spent on this. I was just disappointed not because I had any particular affiliation with or affinity towards it. I didn't remember it particularly well. I said, aside from the character design, I remember fourth as a fuck all. But yeah, I don't know. I was hoping it was going to be better.
So was I. And like I said, particularly on paper, when you read this, it sounds like it's so in our wheelhouse. Like it's so
completely.
We love this stuff. We've said on several times when we've looked at shows set in high schools and things like that. Like we get it. There's a universality to it. Yeah. And I particularly love, that the whole thing of using that to explore all the growing pains and things, and being, if you put that in a fantasy environment, like it ticks all of my fucking boxes, but it's just done so fucking badly that I can't. It's fucking awful. Absolutely awful. I feel like we've spent best part of an
That's
hour
about an
just
hour.
shitting on it, because we have.
Yeah.
And I feel bad. I want to say something good about it, but other than I think the costume looks all right, I got nothing. It's not even like it's got a good theme tune. It's got a fucking terrible theme tune as well. It
Yeah, it
sounds like
doesn't
somebody's
fit.
playing it on a little synth. It's
Yeah,
terrible.
but again, doesn't fit with the fucking show.
Well, no, because again, like it should be set in the stall out, shouldn't it? And it's got that very kind of and it's very kind of just rough and tumble. And it's like, no, it should be like slightly spooky, surely.
Yes.
It's like that sets the tone.
But that's the thing. I think that thinking on it, that may be one of the things that that disappointed me was that there was so much scope to make more of the Harriet Hyde character, and actually do some work with that and say, okay, well, what side of Julia Jekyll is this bringing out? Because if it's going to bring out her nonconformist, rebellious, slightly anarchic, slightly more aggressive, less perfect, less goody two shoes, less Pollyanna character, fine, lean into that, because then again you can link that into all sorts of things with the teenage experience and growing pains and the advent of puberty and all the sort of changes. All of that. It's right there.
Yeah.
It's the lowest hanging fucking fruit you've ever fucking seen.
It's there for the taking. And then as the show runs for more and more seasons, you can get into the duality of that as well. The two of them can start to realise that actually they're more alike than they thought, and they can find common ground. Yes, exactly. Like you said, it's all there. And it's not even like the roadmap isn't there for it, because that is not an original story. Like I said, done several times in the same time period by other shows and done so much better. Just fuck it, really, innit? Fuck this show. Fuck it.
I mean, I've not thought about it for a very long fucking time, and I'm pretty sure now that once I've repressed it this time, I won't have to think about it again.
I don't even know how
that'll do me fine.
Yeah, me too. I don't even know how it made its way on the list, because I don't think either of us put it on. Somebody must have requested this.
Possibly. It's either that, or we were going through a list of shit and going, oh yeah, I remember that.
It's that. You're right, it's that. Because if somebody had requested it, we would have made a note of who'd requested it, because we would have shouted them out, right?
And we probably would have done it sooner as well.
Yeah, because requests we normally jump on pretty early. Yeah. So
it must have been, we had a list of shows and went, do you remember that? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we'll chuck it on and we'll see what happens.
It's got to be one of them. Because I don't think either of us would have... I don't think I would have remembered this show otherwise. If it wasn't like as soon as I saw it and I saw the name, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. I fucking hated that. But I wouldn't have thought to put it on a list.
No. I think maybe we need to be more discerning with our lists.
Yeah, it's balance, right? We can't just watch the good shit.
No, you can't have Jimbo every week.
No, you can't have Jimbo every week. Exactly. Sometimes you've got to watch Julia Jekyll and Harriet Hyde, or The Animals of Farthing Wood, or The Raccoons. Because it's been at least 2 weeks since I've brought up The Raccoons. So,
which, considering when you record every other week, is quite impressive.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, no, you're right, and I think that we get ones which we're pleasantly surprised at. We would get some we're fucking blown away by, and actually think, fuck, this is a lot better than I remember. And then, unfortunately, for every one of those, we get one of these, and it's just how it goes sometimes.
But next episode is the Ratties, and if that's bad, I'm putting.
That may end this fucking show.
Yeah, I'm putting my flag in the sand now, Mark. I'm with you. If that's bad, I'm done. If that's bad, if that's another Raccoons, I think that's me. I think we need to stop, because I fucking adored that show as a kid.
Yes.
So that had better not be bad.
No pressure.
No pressure, Ratties. And let us know, listeners, if you remember the Ratties. If you remember Julia Jekyll and Harriet and you really liked it, tell us what we're missing, as always.
Yeah, tell us why.
If you love the Ratties like we did, get in touch with us and talk about the Ratties, because I'd much rather talk about the Ratties than Julia Jekyll and Harriet Hyde, for sure.
Yeah,
so,
definitely,
yeah, fingers fucking crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. But yeah, as Chris said, if you do have any recollections or certainly any fond recollections of Julia Jekyll and Harriet Hyde, please let us know, because there's got to be something we've missed. People love this fucking show.
Yeah.
But I don't...
It's us, again, just like Farthing Wood. It's us. We're the problem. We're the problem.
That's true.
Right?
But yeah, please let us know what we've missed, or let us know what it is that drew you to it at the time. If you have seen any of this stuff, if you have played along at home, with this episode. Let us know what you think of it now, because that's a big part of it as well. That's the whole point of this show, is that we look back at stuff through the lens of middle-aged sad fuckers who have nothing better to do on a Wednesday night.
Hey! I have lots of better things to do on a Wednesday night. This is usually a Tuesday night. All right, so
That's true. Yeah.
I have nothing better to do on a Tuesday night.
Okay, point taken. But it's Wednesday today. But yes, point taken. But yeah, so please let us know what it is we've missed. Get in touch on the usual channels, on Twitter at SMPDPod. You can go to our website, ddpodcast.net. We can also get our previous episodes and other shows as well. Wherever you get your podcast from, like, subscribe, leave us a message, we'll get back to you as best we can. Until next time.
See you later.